From the same people who brought you Trans Rights Are Human Rights, we have this group that are absolutely panicking that they can't use Chinese sweatshops in their development of their games anymore. And Steve Jackson's actually admitted it in their email that that's what they're doing. They are using Chinese sweatshops to produce cheap components for their games, and it's going to hurt them. And they're very, very upset about that they can't use that anymore. It goes to show you that the SJWs do not have any morals whatsoever. They never have. It's always been just about their own personal little fiefdom and their own little clout structures. And this is a mask-off moment for the entire board game industry as they're melting down over the tariffs right now. And they should. They've been abusing this system for a long, long time. These are razor-thin profit margins in board games and the like, and it is going to start to impact things like Kickstarters where, there's been a certain price point that's been in there, and the costs are going to be higher to deliver these games, and it couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. We'll get into the entire kind of history of the recent board gaming explosion and exactly what's been going on in just a moment. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Join us here as we talk about all things in gaming and, of course, fantasy culture. I'm a fantasy writer myself, and I would love for you to check out my Demon's Eye Sword and Sorcery novel right here. It is an awesome, fun read, much like the Silver and Golden Age stuff of the past. A strong male lead fighting against a real evil. We're bringing it to you, and enjoy it. It's in the description below. Thank you guys so much for making this book a success, and really appreciate you supporting our channel. It's only $4.99. Check it out this weekend. Start reading, and it's available on print and regular Kindle edition as well. Thank you so much. So, Steve Jackson Games is the latest company to go off on the tariffs and board gaming and the like. There's been a lot this week. We've covered it all on Fandom Pulse. If you're not signed up there, we've got articles almost every single day in tabletop gaming and the like. So Steve Jackson did so. The Wingspan company, Stonemaier Games, gave one, which we might cover as well today. Eric Lang, we covered over the weekend, flipped out at another creator, and of course just went full identity politics over it, saying, "Kiss my black ass," as if black had anything to do with it. And all these people are panicked right now because, again, the industry uses Chinese slave labor. They really do. They go into these sweatshops. They make these little components for their games, little cardboard cutouts, miniatures, plastics, etc., that are all made in China. That's why a lot of these Kickstarters take 2-3 years to deliver, because they come over on certain boats, like for cheap shipping. Everything's done as cheaply as possible to get board games to where they're at. Now, I support some board games here. I enjoy board games. But, of course, this is like a bad thing about the industry. This is one that's out right now. It's called Ashes, that I've played for a long, long time, which I enjoy. And so if you look at it, they've got a bunch of games here. And even though it looks like a lot, they've got $250,000 made. If you look at like the actual rewards and what they have to do, all the new stuff's $120 for a fan. And, of course, you have to get this whole game with like all these dice and the like. Now, of this $120, it probably costs $40 or $50 just for them to make it, right? And so there's not a, and then once you get all the art costs associated here, in games like Ashes have a lot of art costs, you get to a point where you are barely breaking even on these games, even with several $100,000. They put a $50,000 goal. I think that was just a standard marker, but that is how razor thin these things are. Now, like I said, it's very unfortunate, but all these people have been, even with these margins and looking like $100 is a big price on a game or whatnot, using Chinese slave labor even to get it to that point where it's at that kind of cost. Now, Steve Jackson Games is not really known for their like great components or anything like that. They produce really cheap games like Munchkin, and those games actually rely on this stuff even more, because the cheaper the product ends up being, the more sort of expletive it ends up being as well. So this is what they wrote in a rant in an email to people this weekend. So Meredith Placco, the CEO, wrote about this, said, on April 5th, a 54% tariff goes into effect on a wide range of goods imported from China. Those of us who create board games, this is not just a policy change, it's a seismic shift. At Steve Jackson Games, we're actively assessing what this means for our products, our pricing, our future plans. We do know that we can't absorb this kind of cost increase without raising prices. We've done our best over the past few years to shield players and retailers from a full brunt of rising freight costs and other increases. But this new tax changes the equation entirely. Here are the numbers. A product we might have manufactured in China for $3 last year. Now think about this. Now a Munchkin pack. What is a Munchkin pack? Munchkin. Let's see what it sells for. It sells for about $34.99. and or maybe $26.99. Maybe one of them actually down to $25, right? So when it goes to the distributor at $25, by the way, this is how the businesses work. The distributor takes a 50% markup, right? Or that the actual retailer takes a 50% markup, and the distributor takes a 50% markup. So Steve Jackson Games on a product that's like $25 is actually making about $6 on the product from the game company itself. That's how this stuff works. That's why so many people are going to direct to Kickstarter now, because then you don't have to pay the retailer and the distributor. It makes a lot more sense to cut out that middleman and just sell direct, and that's what they do. So yes, if you did a Kickstarter like this, you're going to get the full amount of that pledge, versus if you get a thing on Amazon like this, Steve Jackson Games is probably going to get about $6 off of this, and it cost them $3 to make in China, like they said. So this is a very cheap, inexpensive product to get out there, to these stores. So now that's going to go up to $4.62 before they can ship it across the ocean. Add freight, and that margin, that $25 game becomes a $40 product. That's not a luxury upcharge; it's survival math. Just is what it is at this point, and it is a luxury game. These games are just silly things people do for extra entertainment, and it probably needs to go up at this point. I mean, it's really silly. Some people ask, why not manufacture in the U.S.? I wish we could, but the infrastructure to support full-scale board game production, especially dice making, die cutting, custom plastic and wood components, doesn't meaningfully exist here yet. Well, that sounds like an opportunity, my friends. Maybe it's time to start one. I've got quotes. I've talked to factories, but even the willingness is there. The equipment, the labor, the timelines simply aren't. So this needs to ramp up. And by the way, this is how the market works. Where there's a need, the market will ramp up very, very quickly. And this is what we're going to see. It is going to start happening in the United States. That is going to cause it to be more expensive because you actually have to pay people minimum wage and the like. And by the way, you pay minimum wage and the like because Steve Jackson Games, you're pushing the liberals to have minimum wages and the like here that don't exist over there. So while you're telling people need to have a living wage, you remember that over here in America, which I totally agree with, by the way, you're using that slave labor in China to circumvent that at the same time. It's really ridiculous how it's rules for thee and not for me whenever it comes to any of your crap here. It's not about equality. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just about you and your little clout structures, like I said at the beginning of the video. And that's what frustrates me about this. They're acting like the world's falling. You better contact your congressman about this kind of thing. And it's a challenge. People are going to close down. It's going to cost jobs. And then at the same time, you're exploiting these people in these sweatshops, which you admit right here. You're producing these products for $3 in China. That take how many hours to make, right? And so these people are getting nothing, of course, and doing this for you, and you're just ignoring those human rights exactly because why? It's convenient for you. That's exactly what the liberals do every single time, and this is why it's so frustrating. So they say they're not the only company facing this challenge. True, the entire board game industry is having very difficult conversations right now. For some, this might mean simplifying products or delaying launches. Others, that might mean walking away from titles. For what I fear will be too many, it means closing down entirely. Tariffs, when part of a long-term strategy to bolster domestic manufacturing, yeah, that's what it is, you idiot, can be an effective tool. But that only works when there's a plan to build up industries needed to take over production. There is no national plan. So here's the thing, and this is where it becomes a political rant on Steve Jackson's part. How do you know there's no national plan? You're just a stupid board game company, right? You're saying this, but there is. People are going to be ramping up for sure to take care of this stuff. This is paper goods, chipboard wood tokens, plastic trays, color-matched ink. These new tariffs imposing are huge costs without providing alternatives. It's causing, you have to rip off the Band-Aid and then start production. That's how these things work. It takes a little bit of time. But we've seen how fast industries can ramp up. It's a year max. So get over it. Just, honestly, just use American labor and fix things. Now, I've talked to board game designers, and they say that there's no meaningful way to do this, right? The board game designer of the Silver River, Burke Games, told me he makes all of his stuff in America. And he's done it, and it's been no problem for him. So why can't Steve Jackson do it? Well, they just don't want to pay for it. That's what it comes down to. They don't want to pay real prices. The slaves are much cheaper. They like their slaves, right? This is so ridiculous. We want to be a transparent community. This is real. Prices are going up. If you're frustrated, you're not alone. We are too. And if you want to write your local elected officials. You can find your representatives. See, it's all about political stuff. They don't even care. It's about politics. And they've done this before, too. This was from Steve Jackson himself a couple of years ago on Roe v. Wade. Yes, is this a board game company? What's going on here? I guess so. I'm worried. I mean, I'm really worried. I'm a white male, reasonably well off, straight and old, and I am threatened by this Supreme Court. I can only imagine how others less privileged must feel. Well, those less privileged are now not going to be in sweatshops that you have your taskmasters whipping them into creating product for you. Yeah. Sorry about that, bro. It's pretty ridiculous. Again, they virtue signal about this stuff like it's human rights and privileged, and yet they don't acknowledge like exactly what their board game's built on, which is the backs of just a terrible, terrible system. I hope this system goes away. I think they all deserve it. I think what's going to happen here is we're going to get a lot of companies that are going to go under. It's going to make room for non-woke people who just understand business to come in and actually take over these things. We're going to have a better, more healthy board game industry because of it. That's my take. What do you think about this? Leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.